Wow, it's already October? That was fast. Huh. Hey, welcome to GothCast. I'm Dr. Sanders, and today we're going to be taking a look at The Art of Gothic by Natasha Sharf. Pretty sure I'm saying that right. This was released in 2014, and if you're wondering if that name sounds familiar, you know, Natasha Sharf, she actually also made the book Worldwide Gothic, a book I haven't covered before, but maybe I will in the future. But The Art of Gothic is going to be our focus of today's episode, and you know what I think of it and everything it talks about. The Art of Gothic is a very interesting book for a few different reasons. One of them for me is that Natasha seems to really know what she's talking about, and that's really cool. You know, this isn't somebody who just decided to write a book about goth because it was the latest trending thing as part of a series of books on the analysis of, you know, here's one about punk and here's one about goth or something like that, which actually there are books like that that exist, and some of them are pretty funny, where they focus largely on like Marilyn Manson and stuff. But this book encompasses a large variety of things. I'll say that some of these things can be seen as, you know, slightly obscure. In fact, there's a whole 2 pages dedicated to the March Violets, which you know, March Violets have some great music. It's cool that they got their own section. Typo negative is mentioned in here. I always hate when people skip over typo negative, so any book that has typo negative mentioned is great. But this book kind of varies between what you would call a coffee table book, you know, something that's kind of on table that you pick up and flip through, you know, to look at the pictures, and a book that actually has a good sort of sit down and read quality. This book is really sort of in the middle of that, because things like The Forward by Andy Sexgang, which is, you know, that's really cool. They got Andy Sexgang to write the forward and everything. But it does delve into the history of goth music, and then every few sections there's like a page dedicated to talking about a certain thing, like Gothic Lolita, and you know how it developed and its fashion, or steampunk, or you know there's a page on Tim Burton that has a few paragraphs. There are those kinds of things, and then there are just the pages that are just collages or multiple photos, and there are descriptions of those photos. So it kind of bounces back and forth between that, and I think that's why it's a little bit hard to pin down exactly what this book is for. You know, is it for the avid reader who wants a history on goth music, or is it for the person who just wants something cool and kind of a big dose of goth looking things? And I think that line is kind of blurred here. If you don't know that much about goth at all, and its relation to industrial, or its relation to anime and how, you know, it influenced anime, and how Gothic Lolita is related to traditional goth and all this stuff, or how it just is one big melting pot, I think this book is really great because it encompasses so much, and that is where I think people will criticize it very harshly. Because while I love goth because of its inclusion of a majority of things darkly inclined, I won't lie to myself or you guys and act like there aren't certain people out there that would like goth to be a very specific, narrow type of classification. And depending on, you know, what you're referring to, you know, sometimes, yeah, it is a little more specific whenever you're talking about a group of bands or a group of albums. But one of the benefits, and what can be seen by some people as something that detracts from this book, is that it is very inclusive. You have not only things like the Batcave, you have Nick Fiend's art, you know, from Alien Sex Fiend, you have H.R. Giger and all this stuff, but then you also have My Chemical Romance mentioned in here. You have a lot of the newer bands, you have steampunk. I know that some people don't consider that, you know, part of, oh, real goth, or whatever you want to call it. You know, you guys know what I'm talking about, right? I don't need to say it, but, you know, some people don't want to include that ever or reference it, or They just want Bauhaus and, you know, Jane Eyre or something. But that's okay, because this book is obviously not written for somebody who wants that very specific view of goth to be the only one, or like they don't want gothic influences to be prominent in other places or to be classified with that. That's fine. This book is not for them. This book is for the person who wants to see gothic influences in lots of different things. You know, gothic literature, dark imagery and all that stuff is in so many places. And, you know, I actually know a lot of people who get frustrated by the fact that modern goth culture tends to want to have a limited view in certain ways, where they don't want to include this film, that, you know, goths can't watch this film, goths can't listen to this kind of music, all this stuff. So this book kind of fills that niche for, I think, a lot of people who want to see goth and gothic influences in a lot of different places. And yeah, a lot of things in here I'm not the biggest fan of, especially in the later part of the book, but that doesn't mean I can't see that it was influenced by things that I love. This is like a weird tangent I just went on. The point is, The Art of Gothic, I think, is a really good book and accomplishes what it set out to do. And you can really see a lot of the influences of goth carried through many, many different places. And I love a lot of the pages and a lot of the artwork. In fact, there's actually, you know, some YouTubers you may find in this book. I know a lot of people are familiar with the model Razor Candy. I always wonder what people think of her. If anybody has an opinion on Razor Candy, I'd like to know what it is. But the print quality in this book is amazing. This is one of the best quality books I have touched in a while. The cover is this nice, soft, like, it's hard to explain. It's a really high quality hardcover, but it has this kind of soft feeling to it. It's really, really nice. All the photos are super glossy. Every page with writing is done very well. I think a lot of care was taken in making this book almost, you know, its own work of art. In fact, The Art of Gothic became its own work of art, which is cool. I really, really love the way it's presented. But yeah, I mean, the biggest thing that's going to hold people back from this book is your view on how inclusive Gothic culture should be. And you know, I know some people aren't going to be all for all the things that are presented in this book. So like I said, if you're looking for something that's sort of in the mid-range of, you know, a kind of educational book and a casual kind of coffee table book, this is it. And I think it's a great kind of crash course to some of this, especially if you're looking for something that spans from the beginning of goth to now, and even internet culture, which is cool, because a lot of books, especially today, don't really cover that. They kind of focus on sort of the early bits of goth to maybe the mid-2000s. But since this book is from 2014, it was able to include a lot of that stuff that we see pretty much every day. Hopefully that gives you an idea. This book is a little bit hard to talk about just because of what it covers and the type of book that it is. Hopefully it gave you a good idea. If you want to hear Natasha's, you know, other opinions on goth and, you know, the history that she goes into, I also recommend the book Worldwide Goth. Maybe I'll give it a more in-depth review later, but at the moment I haven't done a review of it. It's been a little while since I've read it. It is a few years old. It's still a really good book, and I really recommend The Art of Gothic. You should be able to pick it up pretty affordably. It's not the most expensive book, which is nice because the quality of it is crazy. Hopefully this gave you an idea of what it was, and of course you can like, comment, subscribe, and Jesus, can you believe it's October already? That's crazy. But of course, stay spooky.